Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time on Doctor Who, we had the moon base. What was that one about?
Well, they land on a little moon base that was apparently controlling the Earth's weather, only to find out that the Cybermen had come back.
Yep.
And we never did get to explain how the Cybermen came back because the last time we saw the Cybermen, they had all been wiped out. But anyway. And the Doctor manages to cook up some interesting devices to defeat the Cybermen, and then they take off. That's basically all I remember of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good episode. We thought it was well acted, well written, for once. But, again, between, 2 weeks ago that we recorded it, and now, that's all I remember of it.
Yeah. We also said that it seemed like Jamie wasn't supposed to be in the show yet, and actually I think that was actually the case, that several stories had already been written, and then they were like, wait, we want to bring in Jamie, so they went back to the Highlanders, filmed that last scene, brought him in, and then it's like, well, now we have Jamie in these like 2 or 3 episodes. Let's kind of put him in somewhere. So
so he ended up in the infirmary.
Yeah.
Where he supposedly saw the Phantom Piper, who was coming to take him away.
He thought that the Cyberman was the McCrimmon Phantom Piper or whatever.
Whatever, yes.
Yeah. I also think I heard, maybe it was in one of the comments, that bringing in Jamie, the guy, the actor that plays Ben, didn't like that they brought in Jamie, because he said, oh, he's going to steal my thunder. Because honestly, they're kind of playing the same part almost now. So if they're both the muscle of the group, again, debatably titled muscle of the group. So,
and again, we have speculated for several weeks now since Jamie's arrival. This is the first time they've literally brought somebody from the past, other than Katarina, who only lasted like 2 episodes. So again, having to explain all the different things that they've seen, the fact that they're landing on the moon and that there are Cybermen and Daleks and all this other stuff, that's going to be, we would speculate, somewhat difficult for them to do, since this is a kid from the late 1700s.
Right, which I mean, in bringing in the Cyberman, I guess because, he was sort of in the background of that episode, like they didn't really focus too much on, this is the Cybermen, we're on the moon. Yeah, they landed on the moon. I guess they wouldn't know that, would they? It's 67. Never mind. Well, is that right? Yeah, because they landed 69. That's right.
Didn't land until 69.
So they're not there yet, yeah. So, or just putting a man in space and all that stuff. It's like they didn't really focus too hard on that for Jamie. So that's at least good. It was basically for Jamie, when he was, up, was, okay, they're the Cybermen, they're the enemies, we have to do something. And then he just sort of went with it. So it'll be interesting to see, like, how, if that does sort of come into this, especially with maybe more episodes that try to write Jamie in a bit more. So, yeah.
By the way, is this your first time with your new TARDIS?
Yes, it is, actually. I got the TARDIS for Christmas. This is, I think on the box it technically said the 13th Doctor's TARDIS, which I'm not actually, I haven't filmed the 13th Doctor's first episode yet, but yeah, I mean, it's the same police box, basically. Yeah. Only slightly changes from model to model, but yeah. So it's nice. Another thing to add to the table, which actually, that's the thing, is I'm actually running out of space to put everything for Doctor Who, whereas I have other shows like Breaking Bad. I don't have anything on the table for Breaking Bad. So
I'm not going to construct a meth lab for you. So
well, even just a tiny miniature meth lab or something, or a little Walter White action figure or something. I don't know.
Oklahoma was known for its meth labs back in the 90s. We were one of the first states to really crack down on that. That's really kind of odd. But just to tell you, hopefully by next week, the next thing that we'll add to the set here will be something that will go on the back wall there. So
yes. Possibly, if we find a frame. Which it probably shouldn't be too hard, if we can actually just do that. So yeah. This time around, we have a fully animated episode, the Macra Terror.
Now, all 4 of them are animated?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I guess that's, I don't know. We don't really have too much lead in. I mean, the last thing we saw last episode was these like crab claws on the scanner. So,
Oh yeah.
I'll actually be interested to see what the animation style is for this one, because I honestly don't know if like the episodes that is like, no, this serial is fully animated. I don't know if they follow the same style of animation as the Moonbase episodes that we watched. So, because the Moonbase obviously had very different animation to the Power of the Daleks. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious. I would hope that it's the Moonbase style, because that was a really good, like, capturing all the facial expressions animation style. I guess that's pretty much it. So we should go ahead and get right into the Macra Terror. Here we go. Widescreen again. I'll remember that.
It's the first time we've actually seen the TARDIS in space.
Yeah, just in flight.
The second sight. Very dangerous. Oh, nonsense.
So the answer is C, a brand new animation style.
Quick,
Doctor?
get the garlic and drawn butter.
Look!
Ooh, that's...
They did animate the opening.
Well, that's Troughton's intro specifically.
Walk softly and carry a big stick.
Jamie's ready to start beating fools. No wonder he tried to escape.
Switch on, please, my dear.
Hey, who's that? He looks smashing.
Welcome again, friends. Now, back to work, everyone.
Big brother is watching you.
I'm really going to enjoy myself.
Dear old Barney, everybody call dear.
Thank you, pilot.
And I'm to you for work calls, and hard work never hurt anybody. Till later.
But why risk
to
it?
see you, delighted to have you with us. Now you have a complete choice of all our treatments.
These
We
people
have
are way
steam
too
baths,
happy.
Beauty treatments, perhaps a massage. You, sir, of course, would like your clothes cleaned. And then there's sunlight treatment, moonlight treatment. All part of our service.
It's like this interplanetary spa.
Yeah, a moving spa colony.
Medoc, what's happened to you?
Okay, so we got Medoc and all Ola and all these other otherworldly names, and then you got Barney.
This is your controller speaking. Now, return to your work and play with fresh heart and renewed energy.
I don't like that his lips don't move.
What?
I don't like that his lips don't move. It's just, it makes it creepier.
It's a nice wee tune, Doctor. You know, if you happen to like work, it's a privilege to work for the colony. Just been reporting ship number 9 on present correct.
Are we going to hear this like we did the Last Chance Saloon song?
I think so. Crabs.
Giant crabs. Okay.
I would have loved to have seen how they did that. How they made giant crabs.
Well, they've made, moths and silverfish and bumblebees and things.
Well, this was interesting.
Again, very 1984-ish. You got Control, or the controller, whoever he is, who face doesn't move at all, but you always hear his voice.
Yeah.
And everybody seems to be very regimented in what they're doing.
Right.
So I'm assuming that's where this is going, but, we've thought that about things before, and now we've got giant crabs.
Yeah. So, we have, like, the music and stuff, and it's like, okay, this music is sort of hammering it in. It's like, oh, work is happy. Isn't work amazing and stuff? It's like, okay, I see what you're doing. Crabs, though.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I'm not sure how the crabs fit into this, but that's all right. At least they've advanced to a moving colony. That's a start. And I guess the only other thing to sort of talk about is the animation. So, yeah, it's option C, which is a new animation style, not the Power of the Daleks, not the moon base. Still pretty decent, though.
Yeah.
It's a lot better than Power of the Daleks.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. It's like, okay, it is, it's 3D models, but they're done in a way. It's like, okay, they do kind of look 2D, so I like that. And they're getting better at, like, the facial expressions and stuff.
Yeah.
So, that's good.
Plus, again, in my opinion, the writing is better. Especially in the moon base. What was before the moon base?
Was it it was the Underwater Menace.
Okay, well,
yeah.
But definitely the writing in Moonbase was better. This writing seems to be somewhat more cohesive, although again we're not sure where giant crabs fit into 1984. If that's indeed where they're going. But those there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of padding in this. Now, again, I recognize the name Ian Stewart Black. Or whatever. I thought that was what his name was. We've seen him before. He's written something else. Can't remember what he wrote. But it seems very obvious that they're finally getting their footing on Troughton and saying, even though these might have been the stories might have been written originally for Hartnell, they've managed to adapt them now so that they're allowing Troughton's personality to show through.
Yeah, which, I mean, this would be his 5th episode?
5th adventure, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, because it'd be Power of the Daleks, Highlanders, Underwater Menace, Moonbase, and now this. So it's definitely like they're figuring out what they want to do with him and stuff. So that is good. But yeah, it's like the only thing I could think is maybe for the crabs that they are like the indigenous life forms and they're being like awakened or something by the mining for gas.
So throw in, Godzilla as a crab, maybe?
Yes. Yeah. I would be very... Yeah, I actually... Because we recently rewatched Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is a fantastic movie. I loved it. It's a fantastic movie, and I loved it. I was actually thinking, like, I wonder how the Doctor would do anything in this. Like, because we have in like the modern episodes, like the Doctor speaks everything, and even though the TARDIS translates, he does actually speak everything. So I would love to have like the Doctor like talking to Mothra, like see how that would work. So maybe, I mean, we haven't quite established that the second Doctor can do that, but maybe it'll be sort of like that,
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, so this would be like 1967. So that's 13 years after the original Godzilla. Maybe it's a little inspiration. A little 1984, a little bit of Godzilla. It's great.
Sure.
Yeah. That's what we'll go with.
But I still think it's also weird that, we've got all of these fantastical names, but one of the characters is named Barney. I mean, just where does that come from?
Yeah.
Out of all of these other characters, Ola and Madoc and Questa and the pilot and Barney.
Yeah. Maybe it's just that he's such a minor character. I mean, they did have to name drop him at least once, but it's like, oh, he's not really part of the plot. It's like, okay, find a name. Barney. Let's just go with that. It's the first thing that came into mind, and Ian Stewart Black was like, it has to be Barney now.
Well, it might be as well to... Where do you think you're going? I just thought I'd go.
I know medium-sized sticks. My one weakness.
Search him.
What will they do to us?
I was hoping when they search the Doctor, they'd just find the most random crap in his pockets.
Look, I'm extremely busy. Unless this is a major crisis, I really...
Medoc has been taken prisoner, and one of the strangers has been captured with him.
It's an odd accent for a computer.
Yeah.
Top priority. Are all the cubicles connected?
The rest cubicles for the 4 strangers are all connected for deep sleep and thought patterns.
Very good. The process is to begin immediately. Your
It's like if you mix Irish and Southern.
Everything in the colony is good.
Everything is awesome.
You must obey orders.
Doctor's gonna be on his own, I bet.
We can't just eat their nosh without helping out. You sound just like that voice, Ben. Oh, what are you on about? This colony's all right. Won't be too bad to work here.
All right, at least Jamie is
You talked that way before,
free.
Ben.
So I wonder if the gas they're mining is this happy gas.
Maybe.
Wake up, Polly.
Is that a screwdriver?
I think it was.
I've been The doctor's causing trouble. I'm going to turn him in. You don't know what you're doing, Ben. Get off me now. I'm very much afraid I'm too late.
Ben!
Go at me!
Ben!
Don't!
Let him
Go!
go!
No use, Jamie. We can't just let him go, Doctor. You have to.
Can't the doctor do that hypnosis thing he did on Dodo?
Polly, where are you?
We suspect Polly's going to find the crabs.
Maybe. Maybe the Macra will save her.
And one of those little
Meh.
leg crackers.
Get some butter. I will say, the Macra are very stealthy.
Behind you!
You just can't hear their footsteps.
No, there were no such creatures.
Ben!
There are no such things as Macra.
But you saw
There were no
them!
such creatures. There are no such things as Macra.
But you have a name for it.
That's not the controller, that's just a picture of a man. It is the picture of our controller.
Well, where is he? I'll wager he doesn't exist.
Of course he does.
Well, let's see him then.
That's not necessary.
Now
do
it's the
believe
Wizard
he
of
is.
Oz.
Of course he is, you heard his voice.
Why don't...
This is your controller. This is your controller.
He's an old man.
Well, now you've seen the controller.
Well, he's not talking either.
Give away. Don't touch me.
What's that? What's happening?
That was it! In the picture, that was the claw! They're in control!
Take them out of here, they're condemned to the pits. No!
Macra!
Take them away!
They're in control!
This is getting really weird.
Now, there are also some overtones of, what was it? Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where you have people who have literally, they've been taken over by alien creatures. Now, we don't see pod people here, but it's very obvious that the Macra, the crabs, are using some, I'm suggesting the gas as some form of mind control. And for what reason, I'm not sure. We still don't know why the Macra need the people, but I'm assuming in the next 2 episodes we'll find out.
Yeah. Okay, so I was thinking maybe they were like the indigenous life forms, and maybe honestly I almost thought like, oh, maybe they're trying to help Polly, like get her away from Ben, but that doesn't seem to be it if they're in control. So giant crabs are doing 1984's Big Brother and The Wizard of Oz. Now, they said that this is a moving colony, so maybe, like, they made this colony or whatever, and then the Macra got onto the colony, and then they're using the humans to take them around the universe. Could be that. Yeah. I mean, because, yeah, we're trying to figure out, why do crabs need people?
I know why people need crabs.
Maybe this
One
is
of my favorite meals.
I mean, maybe they're trying to take down Red Lobster. I don't know. It's an interesting development, and I'm glad that it wasn't all 3 of them that got turned against the Doctor. It's just Ben. I don't see losing Ben in this. Do you?
No, but they may be setting that up.
Maybe.
But again, it would also, strangely enough, make sense because Ben, as a sailor, as a member of the armed forces, is used to following orders. Now, Polly, of course, being more of the scientist, and Jamie, who...
He's along for the ride.
He's along for the ride. But yeah, I mean, I can see why they chose Ben to do that.
Yeah. You know what I would also wonder is, after this ends and they, presumably defeat the Macra, it could be that, like, oh, well, this colony, it needs to be sorted out. Well, you have Ben the sailor there. You kind of, maybe they would leave him behind, like leaving Steven behind to help the savages and those guys. So It could be that. I don't know. I have no idea when Ben and Polly leave. I just remember that they are not in Tomb of the Cybermen, and that's only like a couple episodes off. So,
it does seem kind of odd, though, that now again, Stephen was from the future, so leaving him on that colony was not a problem.
Yeah.
But Ben and Polly are definitely from the 60s. This is another Ian and Barbara, and even really a Dodo situation, where we think they've got to somehow get them back to their original time period.
Right. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe they'll just get back to the 60s and then drop them off, but I don't know.
You must serve the colony. Keep watch on your friends. And if you see anything suspicious, report to me immediately.
Yes, pilot.
I'm now beginning to wonder if Jamie's faking it. You know, that he broke the spell with the crab and now he's just doing this to keep an eye on the...
You mean Ben?
Ben, yeah.
Are extremely valuable.
Don't bother to explain to them, just get them to work.
Aye, well, you don't send a lassie and an old man down to dig.
Old? What do you mean old? I'm not old, Jamie. You'll do as you're ordered.
To work in the danger gang for life.
For a life?
Oh, don't worry, you don't survive long in this atmosphere. It's the gas.
The Danger Gang sounds way too cool to just be
when you're down
mining.
there, you're right in the thick of it.
You'd better take this checklist.
But I would have liked a mask.
Add it to the hat collection. It's close enough.
He is remarkable.
It shouldn't make lasses do the work of men.
The danger gang will do as they're told. It's a punishment for their failure to cooperate.
We do all the dirty work. We go where the gas is worse.
I guess we could try to give him a pass on that. He is from the 1700s after all.
Yes. I think that's right. I should give myself 10 out of 10.
You know, don't lie. That is a secret known only to 3 people in the colony.
And you're one of them.
Naturally. And you're not asking me to believe that in a few moments you have been able to work out a formula which it has taken our combined computers years to perfect. Well, you must have seen the document. That's the exact computation.
Really? In that case. So I worked out the principle that controlled them. It was simple, really. Like doing a sum backwards.
Backwards?
Yes. You know, given the answer, what's the question?
Wipe it away.
Ah, Jeopardy.
Get it on.
It just means we'll have to make use of them as quick as we can.
But where, Jamie, and how?
Let's try that wee door first. Come on.
A lot of wee things today for Jamie.
Anybody comes.
Aye, it's a good Scottish word.
How do those crabs get around without making noise? I don't get that. Good job, Jamie.
Haven't each one of these episodes ended with a giant crab?
Pretty much. Yeah.
By the way, I just want to say something here, too. You know, having lived in England and then having portrayed British characters on stage, one of the things about the English accent that I will never understand is the pronunciation of the letter A. In this episode, they mentioned in consecutive words gas and shaft. Gas shaft. That's the way we would pronounce it in America. Gas shaft. But in the episode, they called it the gas shaft. And I'll never understand how, if the 2 letters are the same, and the 2 words should sound the same, why are certain words like grass and shaft and things like that when it's not grass and shaft? I've never understood that.
Nah.
Other than that, move along. Nothing to see here.
Right. So, okay, so the Macra, they have the colony to get the gas into the atmosphere because I guess they can't survive on the surface because there's just not enough gas in the atmosphere. That's why they live down below. But they're using it to kill Jamie, which the Doctor finds peculiar, but he also said maybe they're also keeping something alive in that old shaft.
Now, there did seem to be another door behind Jamie.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where the next episode is going, is he's going to discover the other thing down in the mine shaft.
I mean, the only thing I could think is like the Macra Queen. So it's just an even bigger one, really. So I don't know. It was a little bit of a slower episode, but I mean, it was still good, I guess. Yeah. You know. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. We have Ben starting to recover from his conditioning, which is good. And I guess that's just because I guess because he only went through the one night of the conditioning. Now it's interesting, by the way, which we could have talked about this last episode, that Polly doesn't have any of that conditioning, yet she also pretty much slept as long as Ben did. So I guess it was just that the doctor came in and was like, no, you have to break this.
Yeah, but again, although they haven't mentioned it, it would seem to me that Ben would be more likely to be conditioned since he is a person who is used to following orders. You know, you take orders from your superiors and you follow through. So I don't know. That may be the only explanation. That may just be, thinking on my part. But of the three of them, he would seem to be the one most likely to do that because he is already conditioned to respond to orders like that.
Yeah. Now I wonder, because we've had a lot more Jamie in this episode, I'm wondering if it was that they finally were like, okay, yes, now we have Jamie, we can easily just write him into an episode and give him something to do, or if maybe it was supposed to be Ben or Polly in there with the other one captured, because Polly is also not really doing too much, so maybe she was originally going to go down there, but they swapped it out for Jamie.
That could be.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see what this looked like live.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to know if they did more than one of these giant crabs.
Yeah.
That means there'll be a fine old gale of fresh air blowing along the old shaft any time now.
See, Jamie was right to have a stick.
Poke him in the eye. Because he knows what an elevator is.
Obey control, ring the bell. Rah, rah, rah. Rah, rah, rah. Work well. Ring the bell. Oh, that's much better, but we'll do it again, and this time we
Jamie, I hope you kept that stick.
Don't forget. We want something gay and cheerful. Gay and cheerful. Have you any music?
Oh, no, I don't need it.
Go ahead. We'll pick up the rhythm and clap to it. All right? All right.
This is like the worst part
Well,
of
come
school.
on, get on with it. We haven't got all day.
Condensed into sci-fi. Hit the door on them and go.
Tell him it won't be long before we get our hands on his friends as well.
Jamie,
Well, that was weird. Meanwhile, on the Death Star.
Your voices.
Well, this must have been interesting.
Yeah.
But were it not for my guards, this stranger would still be a danger to all of us.
Stranger danger.
I'm going to report to control.
That's where it
there
came
is
from.
No discipline.
They do exist.
That's what's taken over there.
so what are they, Doctor? I mean, some monstrous form of bacteria, insects, or what?
I don't know, but you must fight them.
How?
I mean, they're
Take full command.
crabs.
You mean defy...
Steam them.
Will you see what control really is?
Yes. You're right, Doctor. They must be destroyed.
They're going to be eaten for years.
The fourth stranger is trying to help his friends. He is no longer one of us. He must be stopped at once.
I've got a
One of us.
What next?
Stop the strangers!
Switch on both inflow and outflow.
It's so weird how one of them can just talk.
Throw the lever away from you.
No! No! Don't let him!
I wish we could have seen that.
Yeah, I just heard it on the grapevine. They're going to draft us as members of the colony and make you the next pilot.
They can't do that to me.
Let's get out of here. Get out now.
Just run.
Okay. Hang on here. Okay. Well, they blew them up.
Yeah.
And then that ending was somewhat unnecessary.
It is silly, but I mean, it kind of makes sense that this such a strange colony would just have, it's like, oh, they have this like party, and then that is funny that they want to have the Doctor be the next pilot. So,
but the pilot was still there, so I don't know why they'd need another one.
Well,
unless the old pilot was going to become the new control. But they don't need a control, so
I don't know. That's all right.
Yeah, not as good as the moon base.
Yeah,
and again, it's no fault of the actors or the directors. It comes down to the writer. The first 2 episodes were very good. The third one kind of stumbled a little bit, and then there at the end, it just kind of didn't live up to its potential. But again, overall, quite enjoyable. Just not what we were expecting.
But I mean, we start this episode with it's 1984 and crabs. I don't know what else we could have gotten from that. And plus, like, you can't have like the crabs doing too much, I guess, because they're giant crabs. How do you do that? How do you film that? So I don't know. It's like they're not as easy to film as like the Cybermen, or they're just dudes in suits, or Daleks, or just they're a lot smaller at least. So
makes you wonder if those were full size or if those were little models.
Yeah.
But again, now if you're going to go with the silliness, the perfect ending would be to figure out how to flood the Macra's control room with boiling water.
Yeah, that might have gone a little far. But yeah, that could have been funny. Or even just at the end, everyone's celebrating, and maybe they all have a plate, and it's like, oh, so what are we eating? Crab.
Yeah, just a big buffet, a seafood buffet.
Yeah.
But anyway, so again, this has happened a lot, where the setup, although again strange, everything is awesome in crabs.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, it had potential and then didn't live up to that potential. It's just the ending was somewhat of a letdown.
I guess. Yeah. Well, it's definitely one of those where it's like, okay, we'll talk about it obviously with the discussion, but not too much to like read between the lines or like theorize and speculate and stuff like that. It's like, that's pretty simple. There's a colony run by crabs, beat the crabs. And that was that.
Now, at the end there, it might have been nice if Ola and the guards had broken down the door and ordered Ben to stop, and just have that moment where, is he going to stop or not? And then he just, says no, and then flips the switch to blow up the crabs. Now, I realize, of course, we're looking at this, half a century later, but, for guys who are writing for television, and this is not Ian Stewart Black's first time, it just seems like the ending seems to be a bit rushed. He's got a great setup. The first 2 episodes were well written, well directed, well acted, and then the script just kind of went. There were so many better ways it could have been done, and it makes you wonder, why did they choose that particular ending?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they wrote themselves into a corner. Like, they have the whole setup, and it's like, okay, so what are we going to do with crabs? Like, it could have been that they had this great idea, and it's like, oh, hey, can we have giant crabs? Yes, the BBC will let us have giant crabs. What are you going to do with the giant crabs? Well, I haven't gotten there yet. I just have giant crabs.
Yeah. Now, also, and I'm sure this is what the writer was thinking here, you got them called the Macra. The Doctor talks about them being like a disease, like bacteria or germs or whatever. So they're basically macro versions of these micro organisms. So they're macroorganisms. But again, finding a way to defeat them, to basically say, either the pilot or Ben or somebody who, breaks out of the control and just says, no, I'm not going to do it anymore, pushes the button, blows them all up. That would have been, again, just a better tie-up of the entire, we have these people under control because we are the disease, but human emotions overcame that long enough for somebody to say, no, this will not stand. So, it's just...
Which, we kind of had that with the pilot, too, because he was willing to go with the doctor to see the Macra. So, I do know that in modern Doctor Who, the Macra actually come back for one episode.
Huh.
Yeah. In David Tennant's second season, they go to New Earth, 5 billion years in the future, where for about 24 years, everyone's been stuck in a traffic jam. And it's a whole thing, but, there's this giant traffic jam in New York, and you literally can't get out of it. People are in there, it's I've been driving here for 6 years, I've made it about 20 feet. So, but from all the exhaust fumes, the doctor finally, he looks down and he finds the Macra feeding off all those exhaust fumes. And kind of like this, they're kind of just there. They don't talk like the one controller Macra did. They're just there, and they're sort of feeding off, and if you go too low, you can get attacked by the Macra. So, yeah. That was a bit of an odd episode, too. A good episode, but still kind of odd.
But again, I love the idea that there's this... It's not... It shouldn't have been monsters, but this microorganism, this disease, which alters the chemistry in your brain to control you. And I understand that, the giant crabs were obviously, visually terrifying. But, again, if you're going to go with that idea, it might have been way more interesting to find out that they were not, in fact, gigantic organisms, but these microorganisms, and then had to figure out a way, again, to blow up the control room. But, everything can stay the same. But then it's almost like Spielberg's Jaws, where you literally don't see them, and we don't end episodes 1, 2, and 3 with the giant things, but you are able to figure out that I've got something, I've literally got a germ inside my head which is controlling my brain.
Yeah. Of course, that could have also been too similar to the Cybermen from last episode, with them, taking over and, later converting others to become more Cybermen, so... Maybe right after that might not have been the best, but it still that would have been.
By the way, that brings up something. Right about this time, one of the, and I realize the effects were somewhat cheesy, but one of the greater science fiction films of the mid '60s, called Fantastic Voyage, was released, and it's about this very famous. It's either politician or ambassador or somebody like that, who suffers like a brain aneurysm or a blood clot in the brain. And this guy is absolutely essential to world peace. So they miniaturize a submarine, like a 5-person submarine, and they put a crew of doctors and scientists and, obviously the one military man to guide it, but they shrink it down to microscopic size and inject it into the guy's bloodstream. And then they take this fantastic voyage through the guy's body to go to his brain to break up the clot with a laser beam. So, obviously, I don't have no idea whether this was influenced by that or not, but again, it gives you that potential of, we are literally being controlled by something that is, the size of a bacterium or a germ of some kind, rather than actual giant, 20-foot crabs.
Right. So I guess to sort of go into the notes, I wrote down spa, but that just wasn't, they just had a spa. It wasn't a specific spa colony. But we had the colony.
They didn't set that up very well, because all through that first episode, you kind of get the idea that it is just some kind of resort of some kind, and then it's only later that we find out that they're actually mining the gas.
Right. So now this is a moving colony, like they said, which is why the leader is the pilot. But they don't really mention it that much, and obviously when we see the distance shots, it is just a building there, which is interesting. But I guess it could be that this colony came to this planet and then they were taken over by the Macra.
Yeah.
And so maybe, after this, they would be moving on somewhere else. So I'm not really sure. But, the whole thing of, this is a moving colony, that didn't really come up too much. It was really just a standard colony.
Now, I'll be honest with you, I didn't hear that. So, again, to me, just like you said, even if they did say that, it doesn't have any effect on the script.
Right. Well, I'm pretty sure they said. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the reason why the leader is called the pilot, because he is the pilot of the colony. So, yeah, but that didn't really come up in any way. It was just that they were here, but the Macro weren't trying to leave. They just needed these people to get the gas into the atmosphere. Yeah. So, let's see. We had the music, which was not as invasive as the Last Chance Saloon, but it was there.
Yeah. But again, that's just I kept mentioning the Lego Movie, where everything is awesome. It was that annoying.
Yeah. And again, very 1984. Big Brother is watching, or Big Crabs are watching you. So. It's just so strange when you have, it's okay, so we have, it's 1984, but, and that's interesting, we haven't really done that on Doctor Who, but we're adding crabs. Okay, it's just so weird. It's how did these two go together, but...
Well, again, that just vaguely, as I mentioned before, is reminiscent of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but in that instance... the aliens came down and basically made duplicates of the bodies that they were inhabiting, and then disposing of the old ones, so that basically everybody came under the control of the pod people. But again, I don't know if that's the inspiration behind this or not.
Yeah, I mean, from the first episode, the first two episodes, you could almost think that the Macra being this indigenous species, maybe they're going against the colony. Maybe the colony is doing something that harms them, but then you learn, no, the Macra are actually in control. So
yeah, they didn't set that up very well to figure out, are they an indigenous species or did they invade the planet by accident? So
yeah,
again,
maybe.
Minor point, because again, if you were watching this week by week, probably never would have thought of that.
Probably, yeah. Well, we had Medoc, but he just sort of dropped out of the story at a point.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he was just there as sort of the, showing that there is something wrong here, and then...
Canary in the coal mine, as they say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, again, that would have been fine if Medoc had come back at the end to push the button on them to say, no, I will not follow the orders anymore. It would have been more dramatic. It would have been a much more effective, dramatic moment if somebody who had previously been under the control, whether it's the pilot or Medoc or even Ben, to say, when Ola comes in and says, I am in charge now, you will do as I say, and to have them pause and to actually have to think about, no, I will not follow that order, I will do what the doctor says, and then push the button.
Yeah. Let's see. We had the conditioning, which that was interesting, just so I guess they did use a gas for that as well, some sort of sleeping gas, and then they had I guess it was just a speaker there, really.
Yeah.
Just giving them the conditioning.
I think, now this would have been in the late 50s, there was this thing called subliminal information like that, where, Coca-Cola would, in a 30-second visual ad, they put in just, one or two of the 26 frames in a second that said, you're thirsty, buy a Coke. So that if you were at the movies and you're eating popcorn and you're watching it, you're getting this message, your brain is seeing it, even though your eyes cannot comprehend that you saw it. And you say, you know what would go really great with this popcorn? I need to go get a Coke. That was actually outlawed. So, there's probably some overtones of that. But yeah, this is very much what especially in China, the communists were doing. If you did not follow what the party told you to do, you were literally sent to re-education camps. And this went right up into the 80s and 90s in places like Cambodia, the killing fields and places like that. It's it's just indoctrination. You're being brainwashed, which again goes back to the 1984 thing. Is you will listen, you will follow orders. So
yeah, which is interesting. So it didn't really work on Jamie because he woke up, and I guess Jamie just doesn't trust the voices or something. It's like I did kind of wonder. It's like maybe it's because he's so superstitious, especially from being from the 1700s. He starts hearing voices. He might think it's some sort of demon. Last episode he had the Phantom Piper. Now it's demons.
Yeah.
So, and then so he didn't get any of that because he woke up. Polly didn't get anything just because the doctor, woke up and started yelling at her to make sure she didn't remember it. Yeah. And for some reason, during all of that yelling, Ben didn't hear any of that, so he woke up and had all the conditioning set. A bit odd. Like, maybe if they were, if they were each in their own rooms and the doctor had to go to each one of them separately, that could have worked just slightly better, but I guess that's sort of nitpicky.
That's what we do, though.
That is what we do. It's what we're paid to do. Anyway. I was kind of curious if it was going to be all three of them turning on the doctor, and then that would kind of just leave the doctor on his own to sort everything out. But they didn't end up going that way. Which, I mean, that could have been a bit difficult to write all three of them, now being the enemy.
Yeah.
So, let's see. We had the Macra being the control, which was interesting, and especially, just because they can talk. Or at least one of them can talk.
Or at least project thoughts that you can hear.
Something like that.
Yeah. Now, also, they showed the actual control, the old man.
Yeah.
But then didn't do anything. I mean, he got dragged away. Although he said, I'm willing to say what you need me to say, but again, that's another loose thread, dead end, red herring, whatever you want, because there's a character that briefly showed up, and we thought, oh, they're going to do something with him, and then no, the last thing we see in the shadows is just he's being dragged away.
Yeah, I guess it was just because he wasn't doing it fast enough. I don't know, because you're right, he was going to, okay, yes, I will say what you need. Oh, no, crabs! And then he gets dragged away, and that's how the episode ends. So, I don't know.
We need that on the shirt. Oh, no, crabs.
Yeah. Let's see. We had the gas. Another thing they're mining for. We get that a lot with just... at least we know what they're mining, at least. It's not like Power of the Daleks, which we're just going to keep harping on until we're done with Troughton.
We need to let that go.
I know.
That wasn't his fault.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, I wrote down the formula. That also kind of wasn't, anything. It was just... I mean, it shows how smart the doctor is, that he figured it out without pretty much any knowledge. He just looked at some of the gauges like, okay, this. Okay, hang on. And then he writes out the whole thing.
Yeah, reverse engineers it.
Yeah. Which that was also clever when it's like, oh, well, I had the answer. Now I just have to figure out what the question was. Yeah. So I did like that. Jamie had to do a dance. Those poor cheerleaders. That's... What a sad existence. They have to be cheerleaders on a colony.
But strangely enough, that would have been a much easier casting call than some of the others did. Because all you have to do is say, we need some drum majorettes. We need some singers and dancers. And I'm sure the BBC had plenty of those on file. And just say, hey, come in here. We're going to do this rah-rah, sis boom ba. Go team.
Yeah. But honestly, those cheerleaders and just how peppy, the cheerleader, the leader of the cheerleaders was, I don't know. That was just taking me back to the worst parts of high school. I don't need that. Jamie, run. I'd rather be arrested by Ola than have to deal with them. But Jamie did have a Highland dance, which was kind of funny.
Yeah. A little jig.
Yeah. And the last thing I wrote down was just the explosion, which I'm very curious how that explosion would have worked in the original.
Yeah.
The only thing I could think of, because they had, in the Dalek invasion of Earth, when the Dalek ship, exploded, it just sort of, went white, and then you just get, stock footage of explosions or volcanoes or something. So, but this one, obviously, they could animate the actual Macra explosion.
Now, here's something else, too. everything that they set up in the first 3.5 episodes was that they were simply going to reverse the flow, which means that literally the crabs should have simply died of asphyxiation.
Yeah.
So where exactly does the explosion come in? There was nothing to set up the fact that once we switch out the gas for normal air, we can then ignite it and blow up the crabs.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was kind of odd. That was an easy way to end it, but they never set that up.
Yeah. I was also thinking that maybe you could have had, like, Medoc go in and sacrifice himself to blow up the Macra. That could have worked, and maybe that could also play into, no, I'm not going to follow orders. I'm going to take these things down. So, but, yeah. Unless the Macra, their version of asphyxiation is just exploding. Like, it's like, oh, I can't breathe. And then they're just gone.
Well,
so.
It's one of those things. It's kind of like, sadly, with Katerina, if you suck all the air out, make it a vacuum, everything inside the room that was a living organism would literally explode, inside out. So,
yeah.
Again, it's a minor thing, but here we are, trying to analyze it, and again, they set it up one way and then they ended it another way. It's somewhat disappointing because, we are now 4 seasons in.
Yeah.
And they're still making just very basic scientific and even dramatic mistakes. And we've said this for the last 2.5 years. One line in a lot of these scripts would have explained everything, and yet they don't do that.
Well, but I guess that's the thing when we say, well, here we are analyzing it, and that is our problem, is that we are trying to analyze it. Nobody 50 years ago was analyzing these episodes. And in fact, that's the thing is, nobody at the BBC really cared, because that's why it's lost, and that's why we're watching an animation. So,
yeah. I would be interested to know if, in the 1960s, what television critics in the UK would have written about this. I don't know if there was any criticism, because obviously you've got film critics who are watching films like Forbidden Planet and Lost in Space and all that sort of stuff. What did they think? What were their criticisms of Doctor Who at this time? It'd be interesting to know that.
Yeah. And I would imagine that there would be, I guess, in the newspapers, like there could have been maybe critics of this writing about it, because I know that when we were going over the first regeneration, and we said, oh, well, kids, they wouldn't really know that a regeneration was going to happen. I remember someone did say that they did announce in the newspapers, just a couple weeks before it happened, that Troughton was going to take over as the Doctor. And someone said, yeah, they put it in the newspaper, so kids would have known. And I said, I'm not sure how many kids were reading the newspapers.
Yeah.
Ever.
We were reading. I've mentioned before, and I can't remember the name of who put me onto this, but there are archives. There are digital archives now of Wham and Boys Weekly and some of the large format comic books that I was reading in England between 63 and 66. But again, I don't remember anything in those either. So if kids were reading anything, it would be that they weren't reading.
Yeah, the only thing I could think is
the London Times.
if like their dads were reading and it's like, oh, it says here they're changing out the actor, and the kid's probably not listening or something. So,
Doctor Who is an actor?
Yeah, they probably just think it's the Doctor. But yeah, don't know how many kids would have read newspapers. I never read a newspaper when I was a kid, and I was, born in 97. You read newspapers, though.
Yes, I've read newspapers pretty much all my life, but then I'm a news junkie, leading to essentially 5 years of my life. I actually was a journalist. I spent 2.5 years in the newspaper in Norman, Oklahoma, and then 2.5 here in Edmond. Again, working my way up to where I got to review. I didn't do movies. I was doing mostly local stage productions, stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of where I honed my skills of analyzing, is going to watch live productions and having read the script and read previous criticisms saying, well, other productions of this script might have done something wrong, but this one got it all right. So I don't know. It was fun to do that. Yeah. I enjoyed that.
And that has prepared you for this.
Yes, my life's work culminating in
watching a show 50 years after it aired and talking about it on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
Which 50 years ago, no one would have ever suspected would have existed.
Right. So,
with all that.
Yeah.
And what's up next? They didn't give us any kind of...
I think next up is called The Faceless Ones. I am not sure if it is multiple parts. Well, I mean, like, obviously, I know that while it has been completely animated, Part 1 and Part 3 were actually found.
Oh.
So, I imagine we can just swap back and forth. But I don't remember if it's 4 parts or if it's 6 parts. I feel like it might be 6 parts, so I don't know.
Okay, well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. But we're actually almost done with season 4. It feels like we just started it too.
Yeah.
So, but that'll be next week. And I guess that's basically that. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch more of our Doctor Who classic reactions, you can click on the playlist, you can subscribe if you haven't done that already, and be sure you hit that notification bell. You can support me on Patreon and follow me on social media. Links below in the description. That was it. See you guys later.